Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, the 4th of April. It is now 1:31, and I would like to call the regular council meeting to order. I'd like to start with an approval of the agenda. And are there any additions, changes? Councillor Wilson.
I would like to add a in-camera item, intergovernmental affairs, so that in-camera would be 10.1. That intergovernmental affairs item would then be 6.1, moving that to an in-camera item.
Thank you. So a motion to add in camera and moving item 6.1 to in camera. All those in favor? And that is carried. We have Councillor Keller MP joining us via Zoom. Are there any other changes? Councillor Demota.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick. I'd like to add another agenda item. I'm not sure now where we are. If we're going in camera at 6.1, then would this be 6.1.5?
10.1.
It'll be an in-camera item at agenda item 10.1.
I think if we have an agenda item at 10.1, that's after the adjournment on the agenda. So I don't think it technically can be 10.1.
We can change the adjournment to 11.
Yes.
And then it'll be 10.1, but you have an item for in camera?
Yes. And I wasn't trying to stall so that the mayor would be here. I would like to add 10.2 to the agenda, which would be development variances.
So it'll be an in-camera item. A second item in camera, development variances. May not necessarily be 10.2, but it'll be an in-camera item. Since items in camera are maybe not necessarily numbered. But there you have an motion on the floor. All those in favor? Thank you. So with the blessing of the mayor, I'll continue to approve the agenda and then to ensure that Mayor Ireland is comfortable to continue chairing the meeting. That is in camera. 10.1, we've moved 6.1 to in camera. We've added a second item to in camera. And now we're ready to approve the amended agenda, at which time I can. Yeah. After the huddle, we figured we'd pass on hut 2. And for those of you who have ever played football, we're at agenda item 2, which is the approval of the amended agenda. And I would like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda amendment. Thank you, Councillor Hall. All those in favor? Agenda item 2 being done, hut 2, I'm now passing over to the mayor for the rest of the meeting, or until a time where I may have to take over again.
Called a live audible.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick. My apologies for being a bit late. Now we can go deep. Agenda item 3 approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes for approval at today's meeting. First, the minutes of the regular meeting of March 21st. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections required to be made to those minutes? Seeing nothing, I would look for a motion to approve the minutes of the March 21st, 2023 regular meeting as presented. Councillor Demota, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And we also have before us for approval the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of March 28th, 2023. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections required to be made to those minutes? Again, seeing nothing, I see a motion from Councillor Waxer that council approve the minutes of the March 28th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting as presented. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Agenda item 4, correspondence. We have one item of correspondence, a request from the Jasper Pride Festival Society for a flag raising and a poll made available for that flag raising on April 14th. Is there any discussion with respect to that piece of correspondence? Councillor prepared to make the motion. Councillor Hall.
I would make the motion that council approve the flag raising request for a progressive pride flag at the Jasper Emergency Services Building on Friday, April 14th, as presented by the Jasper Pride and Sea Festival co-chairs.
Is there any debate on the motion? We'll call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Agenda item 5, delegations. Or as I mentioned this morning, in other jurisdictions, deputations. There are none. And one individual in the gallery, but not a delegation, I take it. Interested in another item on the agenda. So agenda item 6, if I understand correctly, 6.1 has been deferred to in camera. That takes us to agenda item 6.2, membership with the West Central Airshed Society. That comes to us by way of recommendation from Committee of the Whole a week ago. Is there a councillor with a motion? Councillor Waxer, thank you. And that motion, I think, is that council direct administration to register the municipality of Jasper as a member of the West Central Airshed Society, and that council support a representative of the municipality of Jasper to join the West Central Airshed Society Board of Directors if invited. Is there any debate on that motion? Seeing nothing, I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. Takes us to agenda item 6.3, communities in bloom. And is that a presentation from our acting CAO? Isn't it on? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. Director Greathead will be speaking to this item, but I just wanted to introduce it and outlining that this is a bit of an unusual process for items 6.3 and 6.4 to come directly to council. So 6.3 has not been discussed at Committee of the Whole, but it does have implications for the UpLift item. I think I misspoke there. The communities in bloom item has repercussions on the UpLift item, and that's why it's here as a verbal update, so you can consider that information before proceeding to 6.4, which also was on the agenda for Committee of the Whole last week, but given some quorum challenges, simply got advanced to regular meeting without the usual discussion and recommendation process for Committee of the Whole. So just a heads up that those two items are a bit out of the ordinary, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Greathead to introduce the communities in bloom item.
Just before you do that, Ms. Madon, I believe I need to know the linkage, because I will have to recuse myself for the next agenda item. And if they are related, I probably should recuse myself from this item. Right?
Your worship, in a nutshell, the funding that is currently allocated to Communities in Bloom is contemplated to be transferred to a different project, being item 6.4. So that is the nature of the relationship between the two.
Well, in that event, I should not vote on a transfer of funds under Communities in Bloom, if that's where it might be going. So sooner than we expected. Councillor Melnick, I will turn the chair back to you, declare a conflict of interest with respect to item 6.4, which is impacted by item 6.3. So I will take my leave until somebody lets me know that those two items have been dealt with, and I will then return.
Thank you, your worship, appreciate that. 6.3 being the third down. And 6.4 being the fourth down, if we're using the football analogy for this particular meeting.
American rules.
Correct. Okay. Council, we have item 6.3 in front of us. Acting CAO Nadon, if you could introduce the item, and then Director Greathead will give council the relevant information.
Good afternoon, council. I'm just here. I was planning on getting this done. I've just been haven't been able to complete a formal report to bring to committee of the whole regarding Communities in Bloom. But regarding item 6.4, there is a request for a reallocation of the funding that was in the Communities in Bloom budget. So we decided that I'd just give an update of where we're at right now with Communities in Bloom. So historically, Jasper's participated in Communities in Bloom, and for the last several years, municipal administration been carrying out the work of planting the flowers, tidying up town site, and spearheading many of the initiatives that align with Communities in Bloom. But we don't have really a functional committee. On October 25th, Committee Directed Administration Development 2022. Committee directed administration to develop a draft terms of reference for the Community of Bloom Committee and return it to future of the Committee of the Whole meeting. On February 28th, 2023, administration returned with a report outlining local Communities of Bloom background and contacts, while recommending the council approve discontinuing the participation in Communities of Bloom and reallocating the funds to other community beautification and environmental activities. Since then, I have reached out to ARBA and the Communities in Bloom, and while we can mirror some of the objectives and ideals of Communities in Bloom, it cannot be a function that's solely done and taken on by the municipality. The municipality may have a member on the board, but it needs to be a community-driven organization, and that's kind of their core philosophy, that it takes a community to be involved to make the community better. I have been looking at terms of reference. There's several different communities. I was just in the process of getting it together to put it in the formal report, and I'll have to be back at another time for that. For us to participate in 2023, though, we've already missed the deadline. The deadline was March 31st, where we would have had to enroll had our judges selected. I think that developing a Communities in Bloom committee, and we'd have to go out to the committee and try and revitalize this initiative if we want to go there. But it's just not going to be able to work this year. So what we will continue with our mindset is always the community beautification, high standards for the environmental. Environmental stewardship is kind of our core focus at operations. So we'll be able to, we're not gonna let up on the pedal at all. We're still gonna want to keep the town as pretty as we can and clean as we can. But I don't have a use for the money, or won't be able to effectively spend the money this year. So I think it's best to consider Communities in Bloom defunct, or on a hiatus, at this point. And then, that would free up the money that is being sought in the next item. I guess that's all I have to say. Open for any questions.
Okay, I'll go Councillor Hall and then Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick. My question is, you said the last couple of years it was it healthy before COVID? Was it healthy? Was it a?
No,
Thank you, Councillor Hall. No, it wasn't, I guess it wasn't a very dynamic group, since I've been here since 2019. And my understanding was that there was not much participation really between administration and the Communities in Bloom. I tried having and convening a couple meetings, over the last, several years, and they've just fizzled out. So, was really nothing for me to work with.
Thank you for that. I definitely see value in this Communities in Bloom program. I'm happy that it's only being talked about being discontinued for this year, and I wonder if looking for new members for the board or new community members might help revitalize this program. But thank you for your answers.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. I'll recognize Councillor Wilson. I saw Councillor Demota will be up next, and then Councillor Waxer. Councillor Wilson.
Sorry about that. Seems like this keep getting disconnected for some reason, so it might be every time we speak, but my question was that how much is in the Community in Bloom, or how much is available? And I know that I see there's numbers to the next agenda item, but I'm sure it's not probably dollar for dollar.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I believe it's in around the $10,000 mark in that budget line. I don't have the budget for me. I'm sorry. I should have had that information, but I seem to recall it's right around the $10,000 mark.
Anything further?
No, thank you.
Councillor Demota.
All right, I'm just here, what's required by us, because do we need a motion here? And from what I understand, the next agenda item, there potentially is a request for $15,000, and if we're talking about transferring funds from one area to another, and the amount of 10,000, I'm just wondering where the other 5,000 would come. I just need a little bit more clarity on what you need from council today.
I'll go to acting CAO Ladon.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick. The proposed recommendation for this item is to receive the report for information on the Communities in Bloom aspect, and then the detail of the budget changes and amounts will come with item 6.4. So council receive the report for information is what we're seeking.
Anything further, Councillor Demota? No,
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Councillor Waxer.
Thank you. Having spent a considerable amount of time reviewing the Communities in Bloom material, I just wanted to say that I think the expenditure on the UpLift Festival is a good match with the goals of Communities in Bloom. So that I wanted to go on record that I appreciate and I think it's a good idea. But I also wanted to indicate that I hope that your work will continue toward looking at a reasonable or a effective way to run Communities in Bloom in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Waxer. Before I weigh in, I'm looking to Councillor Councillor Keller, MP, if there's any other comment, or if there's any other comments from Councillor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick. I agree with both Councillor Wexler and Councillor Hall. I do think it's great for this year, but I think for the future, we need to relook at community bloom. I can support this for this year.
Thank you, Councillor Keller, MP, Councillor Demoto.
Yeah, I agree, and I think maybe throughout the year, we have some broader discussions on what council expects from that, and even if it's something that can't go forward or there isn't a desire, I'd like to see some, initiatives continue on where they're like a social norm initiative. I always like using that one, but encouraging business owners to still participate in a Tidy Up Tuesday and other endeavors like that. And I don't know how we would do that administratively or even through, a communication piece, but I still think that those aspects, things like that are important to continue on. The UpLift is a great endeavor, and I think it's something that should continue, as well as, special attention to the beauty and upkeep of our community. I think that's a good one too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Demoto. Acting CAO Nadon.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick. I just wanted to provide the information that I found the budget allocation for Communities in Bloom for 2023, which was $7,547. And also just a recap maybe on what Director Greathead provided. I think what committee sent us to work on through the motion action list was to explore how we could run a Communities in Bloom program internally. So within the municipality and the operations department. And Director Greathead's findings are that it needs to be a community-led initiative. An internal committee would not meet the requirements of Communities in Bloom. Therefore, I think next steps on this item would be that administration return to a committee of the whole with potential options. So if council is telling us that you're interested in pursuing the initiative in a way that is different than what we were contemplating, that we now found out is not possible, this conversation could carry on. But to Director Greathead's point, the ship has sailed, so to speak, for 2023, and therefore those dollars could potentially be reallocated.
Thank you for that, Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I recall us asking for terms of reference for the Communities in Bloom maybe before Christmas. Has that happened, or is that what this process is bringing us to?
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Yes, that's exactly how we ended up here. It was, can we incorporate the activities and that drive? Maybe I'll take this minute to pump our own tires, but we have been working on improving our communications with the new staffing support, having Amanda in there, and then working with the staff from CFS. We've improved our Fire Smart Day and our our cleanups there, our household hazardous waste pickup. So we've done some of that. So we are constantly evolving, and I believe that we're working constantly to improve our service levels and meet what our community expects, from our operations department or from our municipal staff. So that's something that we're constantly undergoing and just revitalizing and making sure that we're keeping current.
Councillor Hall, anything further? Director Reed.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick. I want to jump on Director Greathead's comment about partnership, and I do see, as an organization, I agree with what he just said. And there's one other thing in the partnership work we've done. There's one thing that I noticed, and I think maybe bears relevance right now, especially considering Councillor Demoto's comments, which is the Communities in Bloom budget line does not do any beautification in our community. So all of the beautification work is done within Director Greathead's budget, so that will not be changing. All we are doing is the support directly to the Communities in Bloom, which again cannot happen this year. We'd be redirecting to a different beautification effort. But all of the things like plantings, like cleanups, all of those things are in the municipal budget, regardless of what you decide to do with Communities in Bloom budgeting. And I think that bears relevance here, and I wanted to not let that slip by. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Reed. Just add a comment or two myself. I like the word hiatus that was used by Director Greathead. That we're not eliminating communities in bloom. We're actually leaving it as a budget item or leaving it as a relevant part of the municipal budget. At this point, we also have a terms of reference for communities in bloom, which I think is still an ongoing project. I don't think we've had that come to council as yet for ratification, so it's actually timely that this continues. And with those two comments in mind, unless there are other discussion items, I think we can go ahead with the recommendation and have a motion to move forward. Councillor Hall.
I would be willing to make that motion to receive this report for information, but I want to add on to it, and I'm not really sure the correct wording. I might need some help with direct administration to revisit this for next season or not have it all off our radar, or what would make sense. Add a little bit to that motion as opposed to just receiving it, because I feel like that just means it's done.
I see where you're going. So in other words, we continue with the motion's intent is to receive this information. But I understand it to include ongoing work with the terms of reference. Oh, sorry, Councillor Keller-Rampy.
I like where Councillor Hall is going with this. I do think this is a project that could go to our Jasper partnership group and also the chamber. They may be interested in working with the municipality on this important project to our town.
Councillor Waxer, thank you, Councillor Keller-Rampy.
Just to also state that since I was originally assigned to Communities in Bloom, Tourism Jasper has also reached out and is interested in being on any kind of community committee.
Thank you. So I'm looking to administration. We have a motion on the floor. Acting CAO Nadon for clarification.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick. I attempt to let elected officials craft motions, but in this case, if I may offer that council receive the report for information and direct administration to continue exploring options for running the Communities in Bloom program, I think would keep the item alive and keep us returning to council at a future meeting with some options.
Councillor Hall.
Maybe we could add with community partners or something like that.
By all means, feel free to make the motion your own.
I take it you're quite happy with the friendly amendment to your own motion. But for administration, given the discussion, I think we've got clarity as to where we'll go forward with this one. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving now to item 6.4. And we have, let me just pull that up. I see has been presented as a sponsorship funding opportunity. Is this Director Reed, I guess you're gonna accept the pass?
Thank you very, very much, Deputy Mayor Melnick, and through the council. Yes, indeed, I will take this ball and run it as far down the field as I can. So the item before you is, yes, UpLift sponsorship funding, and the recommendation is that council approve the proposed funding for the municipality to be a wall co-sponsor and a paint sponsor in the amount of $15,000. The alternatives, of course, committee could recommend council. Since we were not able to make that committee meeting work out. So this alternative is that council approve the proposed funding for the municipality of Jasper to be a wall sponsor fully in the amount of $25,000, and we would have to then work on where we would find that money. or that committee recommend an amended, or that council rather, approve an amended motion that better meets council's vision. So again, just trying to give council some of the flexibility here. Time is of the essence on this item. Administration has worked with the UpLift organizers, and today is very much a hard deadline for them, because they have to secure the artist and all the paint and all of the things. The administration of the festival itself requires an answer. So yeah, the background is in 2022, council received a presentation from UpLift asking for support. And during the organization, or during the last few months, UpLift has proposed a unique opportunity to work towards getting a municipally owned building mural. Administration has been working to find the best way to support this possibility and has developed this proposal. So the mural could be added to the large south-facing wall of the activity center, so that faces the tennis courts. And, you know, we did do some walkarounds. This wall is actually very visible from many angles and many different places in our community. This would require, however, the municipality to enter into a wall co-sponsor and paint sponsor arrangement, which is a total of a $15,000 request. The gift in kind support would repeat the same as last year. So there was easily, you know, $2,000 to $2,500 worth of in kind that we did support the festival with. We would of course do that again, as we know that was council's priority. The matter was brought to March 28th, but due to the limited quorum, we could not discuss it there. So the discussion, administration believes this mural opportunity meets many council priorities and will add to the welcoming appeal of our facilities and our community overall. The funding we have sourced will ensure that the municipality is an anchor sponsor of the event and very likely ensure the artist chooses the tennis court wall. I just have to include that at the $25,000 support mark, we would be guaranteed of that wall and that artist, I believe. No, not I believe, I've been told. And so council may wish to 100% guarantee that, but the festival organizers have indicated that this is a major support and the wall is a target of one of the artists. So it's very high likelihood that this support would work. And we were able to create this budget given the earlier discussion about communities in bloom and the Community and Economic Development Fund availability. So if council wanted to go all the way to 25,000, you would need to find that 10,000 and you could tell us to do that, for example, from the council major project fund, which is yours to administer. Strategic relevance, of course, there's many aspects of community health, relationships, and organizational excellence. There is a real beautification value here that is certainly worth pursuing. So the financial impacts, this level of support was not included in the 2023 approved operating budget. However, the funding model proposed would mean no change to the original budget as requested, as these funds are in place and can be allocated in this way. So we are proposing to reallocate 7,500 from the Communities in Bloom budget, which will leave enough to accomplish the 2023 Communities in Bloom goals, which, as you just discussed, will be really only our regular beautification. There'll be no connection to Communities in Bloom. And then reallocation of 7,500 as a community and economic development grant. Should committee recommend the larger amount, council will need to name that source. You will have seen the attachments sending you to UpLift sponsorship package so you can see what we were talking about, and also the artist bio and portfolio that is the prospective target for the target wall. And I am open to any questions. And we are joined today, should my answers prove inadequate, we could rely on one of the members of the UpLift team, should you wish.
Thank you very much, Director Reed, and I'll recognize Councillor Demota.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick. First of all, I'd just like to thank administration for painting us in the corner. You can sponsor 15,000, but with 25, oh, that's good. And the only question I have, I guess, going in this direction, because I sense that there's a great desire to do as much as we can here. How much money does the council special projects fund have? Because I'm just putting in consideration some of the travel and other potential commitments that we have made for later on in the year where we might need to draw council money for those things. And as much as I'd like to pursue an enhanced donation and using our wall, I think it might be important to know how much money we have there, and if we'd like to keep those allocations for other projects, then find another way to help enhance the project to 25,000. So I guess through you, Deputy Mayor, to administration, if they have an answer there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick, through to Councillor Demota and all of council. And my apologies, I should have said we are joined by Logan Ireland, who is on the UpLift board, and he can answer questions. I misplaced his name, I think. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. But to answer this direct question, the fund we've identified is $10,000 in total. It's the council major projects fund in your budget line item area. And it does not impact any other budget line items. So you would not be taking from, say, travel or conference registration or coursework. This is your major projects fund that's for, in essence, exactly this kind of occasion, when you would find something that fits your vision and you all liked it and we did not budget for it. So that if you wanted to go to that $25,000 level, it would not impact anything else you have planned for this year.
Councillor Demona?
I guess then my follow-up question to that, thank you, sir, would be, does that drain the fund completely? Okay, thank you.
So for those on if I may, Deputy Mayor Melnick, through the council, I nodded indicating yes, that budget line item is in total $10,000. There would be no other special projects that council would be able to apply this to.
Thank you, Deputy, Director Reed. So we're taking 7,500 from the 10,000, I believe is what I'm hearing. Correct?
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick. So perhaps Councillor Demota is already approving in his mind the 15,000. And so I'll just review. What we've proposed is 15,000 made up as 7,500 from Communities in Bloom, really emptying that budget line item, but allowing something beautification to occur with that funding. 7,500 from the Community Economic Development Budget Fund, fund budget, which is 10,000 in total, allowing for the fall intake of that grant program to still have something remaining for our community to access once that program is rolled out. That program has not yet been rolled out. Council just approved that budget item. And so for the proposed request or the recommendation from council, the 7,500 is all Communities in Bloom and 75% of the Community and Economic Development Fund. The additional 10,000 that council may wish to apply to this project would completely drain all $10,000 out of your major special projects budget line item. Does that clarify the financial discussions we're having?
I think it does, and I do know that Councillor Keller MP had her hand up, and then I'll go to Councillor Wilson.
I'm here. I just have problem with audio right now. I'm trying to plug in.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor Wilson if that's all right. Councillor Keller MP.
Yeah, jump in there.
Everyone's having trouble with audio.
Director Reed, could you give me some examples of what we've spent the council special projects fund on in the past, like over the past 10 years or whatever? We could pick a couple or some of them.
Is the acting CEO Nadon?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick, through to Councillor Wilson. I believe some initiatives that were funded from that line item in the past included some consultants' reports on different items, but also something that comes to mind is Lemonade Day and items of that type from Community Futures West Yellowhead, which have been standardized in the 2023 operating budget. So those requests from that group came as external group requests. And so there is funding specified for that. And I believe the 10,000, I see it was also 10,000 in 2022, but I think we used to hold more money in that account. And then we've since allocated expenses that were spent in that area to their specific line items. But I guess it would just limit you if there was another item arising later on that you wanted to spend funding on a study of sorts or supporting another external group that might come. But as Director Reed outlined, there's still some money left in the community and economic development fund. And I mean, there might be other ways to fund other initiatives, but that's generally speaking what's been approved previously in that line item.
Thank you, CEO, Acting CEO Nadon, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you for that. And just to speak my mind on the topic is, you know, I would like to see us get to the 25,000. I think that one of our biggest assets. One of our biggest assets is our, you know, like actual assets. I would love to see that building in that location, muraled, and wouldn't want to miss out on that opportunity. So in my mind, I support it. I want to find the funds to make this happen, and yeah, I just that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson, and just, I don't see Councillor Keller MP back.
She's having internet problems and she's getting onto her tablet.
Okay, thank you. So I have a starting lineup here, which Councillor Wilson, you're good.
Good, thank you.
Followed by Councillor Calampi, which will now fall back to follow Councillor Waxer and then Councillor Demota.
I was just a little bit confused about the math because it looked to me like the difference between a wall sponsor and a wall co-sponsor was 15,000, not 10. So would we be proposing to drop the paint sponsorship because we're only talking about a $10,000 difference? That was my question.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick, through to Councillor Waxman and all council. That is correct. We would, if council were to allocate the additional 10,000, we would go straight to wall sponsor at 25,000, and the other sponsorship levels would drop away, both of them. It wouldn't be a co-sponsor, nor would we be a paint sponsor. It would be a wall full sponsor.
Anything further, Councillor Waxer? All right. Looking at my list, I don't see Councillor Keller MP, so I'll go to Councillor Demota and Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Malik. I guess my next question is, and it's just because we're so early in the season, and in the past when we've had requests, we divvy it up half and half. So part of me wants to keep some of that money in there for issues that might come up, or endeavors, studies, things that we might want a consultant for. So my question would be, what do we get for $20,000? And I guess that would be through you, Deputy Mayor Melnick, to maybe Mr. Ireland, the other Mr. Ireland.
It's present. I can certainly start. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick, through to Councillor Demota. There isn't a specific sponsorship level at $20,000. So it would be an interesting discussion to have with Mr. Ireland, who is here. So I'll pass the mic over to him if he wants to comment.
And just before Mr. Ireland begins, for the benefit of those who are watching, because Logan Ireland, the other Mr. Ireland, is not on your camera, but is here in the gallery. So you won't be seeing a image of him as he's speaking, but he is one of the co-founders of UpLift. Go ahead, please, Mr. Ireland.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Demota. We are more than happy to work with any organization and business in the community at whatever level that they can sponsor us. It's my understanding that in this realm, it's best to have a concrete plan in place and say X equals ABC. So if it's decided, as I believe Mr. Reed left open to council for you to be able to come up with your own number that's different than 25,000 or 15,000, if council sees that that best fits your interests, UpLift would be very grateful to work with you in that capacity as well. However, as Mr. Reed stated, our official sponsorship levels are already set. So for the, the sake of fluidity, it may be best just to stay with those numbers.
Oh,
Yeah, okay, in continuity then, Councillor Demoda, and then we'll go to Councillor Hall after.
well, as I was thinking about it. Well, we're making a commitment from one fund that we currently have to use for this, and I think if we need more money down the road for council special project, we could find it transferred if there's some available, so bit of a gamble. But you know, if it's one that council is willing to make collectively, then I could support that.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I also support the full amount. I like that some funding is coming out of the Communities in Bloom because they're one of their mottos is to enhance quality of life and environment through people and plants, people being the people. My question, so for 25,000, we guarantee that wall, we guarantee this artist Olo.
With a very high certainty. She has yet to sign a contract because the funding is still up in the air. So as soon as this is the last domino that UpLift has to fall, she's committed to us verbally. She's very interested in the wall and she's blocked off time to come to Jasper. We have a hotel room rented for her and she likes big walls and she likes community projects. So once this contract is signed, I can definitely let you know immediately.
Thank you for that. I'm not sure I'm sure you guys have had a chance to look at her portfolio, but her artwork is beautiful. And I support the full initiative. I just have a question. When is the festival again this year? When does it start?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Hall, for the question. May 1st to May 20th is the time period that is allotted.
Thank you.
I'm looking to see if Councillor Kelleher MP was able to attach. She has not. I see Councillor Demoda, further follow-up.
No, I'm prepared to make a motion, pending on feedback from Councillor Kelleher MP if she's available.
Any other comments from any other councillors? Well, in view of the fact that we're not certain via text or other means, oh, hang on.
No internet connection, please send my apologies. I'm in favor of UpLift. I'll try again. My phone is down on battery, looking for an area to plug in.
So given the fact that we have what sounds like a indication of a support of the commitment, Councillor Demoda, it sounds like you're ready to make a motion.
Sure, and we still have quorum regardless of, we have an understood support. I don't think that we can vote through text. So I would move that the council approved. Says the proposed funding in the other one, so the council approved funding for the municipality to be a wall sponsor in the amount of $25,000.
Thank you for that. Looking to administration, it seems pretty straightforward. Any other comments or questions by councillors? There being none, I'm going to turn to acting CAO Nadon.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Melnick. Just for the sake of clarity, the motion should probably include UpLift at some point in the wording. It is understood in the context of the report, but just for follow through and cutting a check, Director Malinchak, I'm sure would appreciate if it said UpLift or UpLift Festival or in the motion, if that could be considered as a friendly administrative amendment.
I apologize. I should have picked up on that so that council approved funding for the hang on, I'll get this. I move the council approve $25,000 for the UpLift sponsorship funding as a wall sponsor.
Looking around the room, I see some thumbs up and some heads nodding. We are 6 of us, 5 of us here, pardon me. If there's no other discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hope that Councillor Keller MP can connect. It's usually we take a break sometime about an hour into the meeting. I'm going to call this halftime right now, and we're going to take a 10-minute break till 2:31.
Hey, Logan, go text her right now.
All right, thank you. Welcome back, as Deputy Mayor Melnick says, to the second half of an exciting game. I think we are at agenda item 6.5. West Yellowhead Trail Society Pathway to the Park. They presented to committee of the whole last week. There was a recommendation from committee to council, which is before us today. Is there any discussion required prior to the motion? Councillor Waxer.
Not really a discussion, but just again, we heard a wonderful presentation and last week, and I think the concept is really exciting, having experienced a similar type of trail in Prince Edward Island. I think this is exciting, and I'm happy to make the motion whenever the opportunity comes up.
I think the opportunity is now.
Okay. That I would like to move that council seek opportunities to advocate on behalf of the extension of the pathway to the park from the park boundary to the municipality of Jasper.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Waxer. Is there any debate? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Before we leave the subject, can I inquire of administration whether there is any ongoing or any intent for ongoing communication with the presenters from last week? And I ask in specific reference to the fact that they mentioned that later that day, they were going to make a presentation to Parks Canada. And somewhere on our behalf, I would like to know that we follow up and see how that went. So either through administration or through council. Mr. Don.
Thank you, Mayor Arlen. I think, given the motion that was just passed, it would give us a great reason to contact them via email. So perhaps Ms. Acorn can complete that and at the same time ask how the parks meeting went, and then we could report that back to council on email.
Thank you. That's, I'm sorry, Councillor Demola.
Well, I didn't want to make any comments during our opportunity to debate, but I think this is a great initiative, and it speaks to quite a few things on our strategic priorities, and I like that we have an opportunity to make a stronger connection with our neighboring community. And thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Demola. That'll take us into agenda item 6.6, Director's Report from the Director of Community Development, Mr. Reid.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and through the council. I won't read this report verbatim. Of course, I'm excited to have any input questions that council may have, but I would like to highlight a few things. For example, the ice plant demolition actually begins today, and we are closing the activity center early tonight to accommodate the removal of the ammonia charge. And so the activity center will close at 8 tonight. There were no bookings or anything in. The ice is, of course, being taken out. So it's not a major impact to our users. However, it will, allow a nice buffer of safety as that ammonia charge is removed. And then over the next 2 weeks, there will be some closures to entryways here and there. Childcare center will have some impacts. They'll some days be needing to go in through the daycare yard entrances so that we can remove the old equipment out of that existing mechanical room. And then a bit of a heads up for residents and council and anyone who likes big cranes. There will be a big crane on site April 18th. And so, you know, there'll be a large cordon off. The west entrance will be closed again while we remove the old condenser chiller off of the roof of the activity center. And also the skid will be arriving that day. So the skid will get craned into the new building that day. So the 18th, if you're a fan of large cranes, is a nice day to keep your eyes peeled around the activity center from a nice 100-meter safe distance. And the second bullet under major projects also, I do want to highlight that, you know, I gave many caveats or repeated the same caveat about market conditions the last few times that I've met with council and also residents and the community. And some of those caveats, maybe I was too strong and they've come home to roost a bit. We definitely have living out allowance, as it's known, is definitely higher than we expected. And so some of the project changes and challenges that we're going through right now, I just want council and residents to have a heads up that you know, the project is by no means signed, sealed, and delivered. We still have some flexibility that we're going to need to exert. And I can't tell you exactly what that looks like yet. I can tell you some smaller things like, you know, locker choices. That's probably an easy one to pick on. There's a range of lockers. You can have a locker that costs 3 times as much as normal high school lockers, or you can have a locker that is a high school locker. And so some of those choices where we're going from, you know, a Cadillac to a fully functional Ford is one of the choices that we are looking at right now. And that information will come to council as the tenders come in and we get concrete numbers. But I didn't want to give this opportunity of giving you a heads up without, I didn't want to, you know, pretend that everything is going swimmingly. It is challenging right now. We are working through some cost changes that we need to adapt to. And so you will receive more information on that in the near future. A couple of, you know, smaller things, not smaller, just different things. You know, we have experienced quite a lot of turnover over the last I'll say the whole year I've been here. But one interesting fact that I did put in the report is that the Wildflowers Child Care Center and the out of school care programs, they have yet to operate at full capacity, full staffing, proper schedule. There has not been a day where there hasn't been one person away for illness or approved leaves or what have you. And so that is just an interesting snapshot that we've gone an entire quarter without that facility operating as we'd scheduled it to do due to staffing. It's been a very interesting time. You know, the last thing I will bring up, second last thing rather, is community dinners. Very successful season. You'll see that, you know, over 5,500 plates of food. We had food costs double, and in some meals, some of the items were triple the cost that we had budgeted for. And we did have some very generous corporate donations to alleviate that offset. So the project is likely to be very close to budget. But with that expanded, you know, again, it's 40% more than a typical year. That's an amazing accomplishment. And I cannot thank the volunteers, all of the, you know, local businesses that, you know, in some of the cases, they closed their business and paid all their staff to run the community dinner. It's a beautiful thing, that community dinner. And, you know, 20 years strong, I am so impressed with this community. And then the last thing I will mention is just that communications and engagement piece. So, you know, we've had some great funding support federally and provincially, and of course from council. And so we've been able to get a bunch of projects, and a lot of them come to fruition now or complete. And, you know, council received the new community guide last meeting.
The website is, 90% there, 95% there. These staff accommodation mini magnets with the QR code that takes your phone right to the information you might need. And that video that those of council that were here last week saw, I just, it's such a big quarter for sort of delivering end of project outcomes. And it's a really exciting time to be around the office there. And I'm really proud of the team all across the board. And again, I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Director Reed. Councillor Waxer.
Yeah, I'll start with one question, then I had a couple of comments. And I wondered about what is a sled library?
Thank you, your worship, through to Councillor Waxer and all of council. Little Sled Library is exactly what it is. It would be at a toboggan hill near you. It would be, in essence, I don't know if anybody's ever seen a life jacket library at a beach sometimes. We've had these here in the park. They were funded by the Life Saving Society. And so this would be, we're not exactly sure how it'll be funded, but we would basically be providing toboggans at the toboggan hill to accommodate those who arrive without a toboggan. And it's just one of those things where the community then is creating the opportunity, the right, safest place to be tobogganing. And then the tool is at hand. So it's not perhaps a piece of cardboard with some staples in it. It's actually a sled. And so that's all that is. It's as simple as it sounds.
Okay, thank you. My next comment again was on community dinners, and to say a huge congratulations to Marlon. That I think it's a huge kudo to the program that we have the large corporate sponsors and the level of support from the business community, the volunteer sector, and the residents who participate. I think that, along with the soup station, has been a tremendous asset to the community and really been a huge benefit to those who are experiencing food insecurity. So I wanted to express my huge appreciation for all that. And as a former parent of a Redfins swim team, I'm very happy to see that the municipality has worked on creating a summer swim squad program. I think the ability to swim well and strongly is a huge asset for many young people who may not fit in other sports. And so I appreciate the efforts of the staff there to create that kind of a program.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I too want to go on record and congratulate Marlon Fernandez for her incredible work this winter over the course of the dinners. I was fortunate enough to be at a few and volunteered a few, and I really hope that she had April 27th off. And as someone who spent a lot of time at the activity center this winter, that soup station, there wasn't a day where I didn't see more than 2 or 3 people having soup together, and all walks of life and all demographics. And I'm very happy, and I'm sure Pete Bridge is also very happy that the ice plants can be gone and we made it through the winter and had a lot of success. And I might suggest you reach out to Wildflowers Childcare for April 18th to let them know about the big crane.
I will just jump in, your worship, Councillor Hall. If you think I could sneak a crane past that childcare center and, Lisa Daniel and her team, no, they've been well aware that that crane is on its way.
Other questions for Director Reed?
Although I like big cranes, I'm more into blue herons myself. But having said that, I was just wondering, does that activate the blue light on the top of the activity center there when we're moving getting rid of or transferring or discharging the ammonia? And I don't know if that's ever happened.
Thank you, your worship, through to Councillor Demota. So to be very clear, that blue alarm, we do test it. And so I know that it does work. However, that alarm is for an alarm state. We're not discharging the ammonia sort of into the atmosphere. We're taking it out of the room and putting it into a safe vessel. So there will not be. The intent is that this is a seamless transition from one vessel to another vessel, and that blue light should not go on. However, that blue light and the alarm system associated with it will be working. And should that blue light and the alarm go off, that would mean that there was a leak, and that our emergency protocols will spring into action. This is not something we haven't trained for or haven't planned for, but the team that's doing the work is. It's not, this is their job, the supplier contractor that we have. This is not the first time they've done this. It's probably more like the 100th time they've done this, and they are fully trained and certified to do this work. So I think it's actually a good point to bring up that, the alarm system will be working, and should it go off, it's because it alarmed. However, we will have all the pieces in place to ensure that the safety of our community is maintained. And that's in fact why it's happening at 8 p.m. tonight, and we're closing the facility. That's exactly why. Let's be on the safe side. There won't be any reason to have anybody near there. And so everything is set up for the best chances of success.
Thank you for that. Director Reed, with respect to service trends, can you explain to me the relationship between the first two that you've noted? So an increase in requests for support coming in for a number of things, some of which I might have equated with crisis support. But the second bullet says, in fact, a decrease drop in. Is that just with transients as opposed to crisis supports overall? Is that how I combine those two statements?
Thank you, Worship. Great question. Yes, partly, you're right. So what we're saying is we're having less transient in emergent need clients. And in the first bullet, we do have overall increased supports. Some of those will be in emergent situations, but they may be emergent to what we would consider to be residents rather than transient clients.
So still a crisis component, but more of an increase among residents than transients.
Correct. Thank you.
Any other questions for Director Reed? Councillor Waxer.
Sorry, I meant to say that I'm enthusiastic about the concept of the little sled libraries, and I'm sure that it brought a smile to Councillor Hall's face, because I know that she was very passionate about the tobogganing in other parts earlier in this session.
Thank you for that. If there are no further questions, might I have a motion, please, to receive the report of the Director of Community Development for information? Councillor Melnick, thank you for that. All those in favor? There were none opposed. That is carried. Thank you for that. Director Reed. Agenda item 7, notices of motion, although there is nothing on the agenda and nothing was added. I understand that there might be an addition.
Yes, notice of motion for the next committee of the whole meeting, and that is something that came out of our legislative committee meeting today, and we got into some deeper debate on how council wants to support some advocacy for rental. What's the term I want to use here? Rent controls for the province. So restrictions were popping into my mind. So yeah, there's, I think that we want to seek, committees, desire and understanding of where we might want to go as council in our, advocating at a higher level for, rental support and or,
Rent controls.
rent controls in the province. I'm so sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. And there's another reason why, because I read something that was important. So I just, we're gonna bring that forward to, the next committee of the whole for some debate to see where we want to go. And, when I was looking at the date today, and it's April 4th, it was 55 years ago that, Martin Luther King was shot and assassinated. Some of us were around at the time, but what I didn't know at the time is that that sped the way to incorporating the Fair Housing Act in the United States of 1968, which is something completely different. But I think some of the concern that came about in our discussion was not having rent controls in the province, and any community might be putting people into vulnerable positions, and I think that's something that we should be supporting. So that's why it's coming. Thanks.
Just so administration is clear, and I think they are, your notice of motion is to add to the next committee of the whole agenda, a discussion about rent controls. Correct?
That is correct. Do we need to make a motion for that? The notice of motion?
I don't think so. I think it is just a notice. So administration can follow through. And just to complete that discussion, because we didn't complete our discussion earlier today, for those of you who may have read the agenda for the legislative committee meeting today, we set out to work on draft resolutions for Alberta municipalities for the fall convention, including rent controls, but we ran out of time. We adjourned today, subject to completing the agenda next Tuesday afternoon. So even if this is added to the committee of the whole meeting next Tuesday morning, it will be back on the agenda for legislative committee next Tuesday afternoon, when we are going to finish the meeting we didn't complete this morning. And all councillors are welcome, I think, to be in attendance if they choose, along with those members who are, or pardon me, those councillors who are members of that committee. So if you have a real interest in it, we can talk about it next Tuesday morning and again next Tuesday afternoon. Councillor DeMora.
I guess the only thing that I wanted to, I guess, plant in other councillors' minds is for the two items that we might be advocating for. One would be victims of non-crime trauma in the province, funding support, and the other one being housing. On what communities that you might see that could mirror us or support us in our advocacy, whether we do go to the AUMA with those. We do need to get seconded if we do go to, Alberta municipalities for our resolution session. Thank you.
Assuming there are no other notices of motion, I will turn to agenda item 8. Councillor reports. Do councillors have reports to offer with respect to their recent attendances at boards or committees? Councillor Melvin.
Just to ensure that it is out there. I did attend the March 20th AGM for the Jasper Yellowhead Historical Society. We're still looking for a museum manager. But also to highlight that one of the items that should be eventually on our upcoming events is the 60th anniversary of the Jasper Yellowhead Historical Society, and there's an opportunity for an event which hopefully will bring in 200 or 300 people into the community. Years gone by, people who were here 20, 30, 40 years ago. And right now the attendance is at about 120 coming from outside the community, and there'll be opportunities for residents to also participate in that event. And then tomorrow is the Community Futures Business Visitation opportunity. And I'll take the opportunity to participate in that again this year.
Thank you for that. And I think there was a question from administration to confirm the date.
The dates would be the welcome reception starting on Sunday, August 27th. And the events go over the 3 days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to August 30th.
Thank you for that. If I could ask Ms. Akron, that was the date you were inquiring about? Thank you. Any other councillor reports? All right, if not, thank you. Upcoming events, as Deputy Mayor Melnick indicated, the business walk tomorrow. Chamber of Commerce Annual General Meeting on April 12th. Breakfast meeting. The Jasper Pride and Ski Festival begins April 14th, and we authorized the flag raising this morning or earlier today. Or 12:30, I think it was, on the 14th. We have an intergovernmental meeting coming up with Parks Canada on April 18th. NEPMA on April 19th. Waste reduction matter on April 27th. Are there any other upcoming events of which council ought to be made aware? If not, I believe in my absence, there was the addition of another agenda item, unnumbered so far as I know, but to move in camera. And
You are correct, but we did change to item 10.1 to move in camera with item 11 now being adjournment.
so we are on agenda item 10, which is an in-camera discussion for matters which fall under freedom of information and protection of privacy legislation, either section 17 or 24, I am going to presume. And so I will look for a motion from a councillor that council move in camera at 2:59 p.m. Councillor Hall, thank you for that, and subject to the vote to move in camera, is it anticipated that any of the matters to be discussed in camera will result in further action in our public meeting today? It is not, right? With that, then, I will advise those people who have been watching online that although we're not yet adjourning, we're moving in camera, but when we come out and revert to open session, it will merely be for the purposes of adjournment. So thank you very much for hanging in there with us for the last hour and a half, and we will bid you adieu and see you again next Tuesday at 9:30 in the morning for committee of the whole. And I will now call the question on the motion to move in camera. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And we shall now be in camera.